Hi, it's Kevin Wright here, back with another property finance video. And this week, we're going to be talking about those property deals that are not within everyone's reach. So you want to find out more about that? Stick around. Now, the stamp duty holiday of 2020 and 2021 created quite a strong buyer's market. Now, in all the years that I've been involved in property, I've seen it oscillate from a buyer's market to a seller's market and back again multiple times. It's largely driven by supply and demand. If there's too many properties for sale for the number of buyers that want them, it becomes a buyer's market because the buyers can pick and choose which properties they want. And in many cases, they can negotiate the price down. Now, the reverse of that is when there's a shortage of property, but an oversupply of buyers. Then it becomes a seller's market, and the sellers can ask higher prices, and there'll be intense competition between buyers to get a property, and sometimes they will actually pay over the asking price. Now, if that sounds familiar, that's what we've been going through for the last couple of years because there's been more buyers than properties on the market. So that has inflated the prices upwards. Now, as it always has done, at some point, it'll revert back to being a buyer's market. Quite when that will be is more difficult to judge. Now, leaving supply and demand aside, there is, in one sense, it's always a buyer's market. Now, what I mean by that? What I mean is for the properties where there is no demand or little demand, then it's not a seller's market. Within a seller's market, it's not a seller's market for those type of properties. And the savvy investors have got an eye out for those properties. So they don't follow the herd, they go down the road less traveled. So whatever the herd is looking for and looking to buy, the savvy property investor isn't. They're looking at something different. They're looking in the opposite direction. I quote this quite a lot, this saying. It's one of my favorite sayings, and it's by James Caan, who used to be one of the dragons on Dragon's Den. And his saying is, observe the masses and do the opposite. And I just love that saying.
Hey, have you subscribed yet? Click that subscribe button down there and that dingy belly thing so you don't miss any of my videos when they're released, which is every week. Great, thanks. I almost forgot, Instagram. Click that button too. Look, it's down there. Thanks.
And for anyone that's been on my training, that philosophy is at the root of it. What's everyone else looking for? Let's look for something different. So I said at the start about deals and properties that are out of most people's reach. And which ones are they? Well, we're going to drill down and find out exactly what deals I'm talking about or what properties I'm talking about and who's selling them. And I'm going to give you 3 key points that these savvy investors look out for. So here's the first one. Look for the deals that other investors either pass over or actually don't see. And if they do see them, they gloss straight past them. Now, what type of deals or what properties am I talking about? They're ones that are flagged up cash buyer only. And you'll often see agents put triple asterisks and the cash buyer only in uppercase, just to make sure you don't mistake the message. So what are cash buyer only properties? Properties that in their current condition are not mortgageable for any number of given reasons. Now, when you understand how picky mortgage lenders are about what they want to lend on and what they won't lend on, it's not too surprising to find out that there are a myriad of things that they can decide, oh, we don't fancy that, we're not going to lend on that. Why are cash buyer deals out of reach for most people? Or to be more precise, perceived to be out of reach for most people? Simple answer is because most people need a mortgage to be able to buy a property, and you can't get a mortgage on a cash buyer only property. They are unmortgageable. They might not be unmortgageable forever, but they're unmortgageable right now because of something that's wrong with that property. And there are a whole host of reasons what that could be. It could be that it's not habitable, or if it's habitable, it's in pretty grim condition So you could say it's habitable, but it's not rentable. And mortgage lenders like rentable properties. But there could be many other reasons why property just isn't mortgageable right now. So if most investors need a mortgage to be able to buy a property, they're only going to look at properties that are mortgageable, and they would view properties that are not mortgageable as beyond their reach, out of their means. Now, to the uninitiated, a cash buyer only property would mean you have to have the cash to buy it. Well, in one sense, that's true, but in another sense, it's only half the story. So the question is, how do you buy cash buyer only properties if you haven't got the cash? And that's a question that I've been answering to investors for pretty much the last 10 years. So if you're looking at a cash buyer only property, first of all, you know you've got rid of most of your competition. The second thing is, because buyers are not beating a path to the door to buy this property, the seller or the owner of an unmortgageable property is more likely to be disposed to negotiate on the price than someone that's had, let's say, 15 to 20 offers on their property. Makes sense, really, doesn't it? Now, if a property's unmortgageable, does that mean it's a bad deal? Well, not necessarily. The question is, what actually is wrong with it, and what is it going to take to fix it up so that it is mortgageable? Now, it could be something as straightforward as, well, it hasn't got a kitchen and it hasn't got a bathroom, and if I put a kitchen and a bathroom in it, it's now mortgageable. Now, you're almost certainly going to have to do a refurb as well, and attend to the decoration and that type of thing. It could also be more significant, like it's got subsidence or something like that. Now, that's a bit challenging unless you come from a construction background, or you can pull in someone that does. So the key point here is, it's only a bad investment if you can't cure what's wrong with it. If you can cure what's wrong with it, and you can cost out the cost of curing what's wrong with it, and you buy it at the right price, there can still be a very decent profit to be made. Now, the one thing that I've learned about cash buyers over the years, and not just in property, this applies to any commodity, and it actually transcends national barriers and cultural barriers, because cash buyers actually behave pretty much the same. And what characterizes the behavior of cash buyers? Well, it's a reluctance to pay the full price for whatever it is that they want to buy. So picking things up cheaper, if you get your numbers right, can lead to you making larger profits. Now, I said a little bit earlier that you actually don't have to have cash to be a cash buyer, and I'm going to tell you how I've been solving that issue for the last decade or more. And the answer is bridging finance. Now, if you're a regular on my channel, you know that I do bang on a bit about bridging finance, but it's a fantastic thing when used in the right way. It can be a bit dangerous if used in the wrong way, of course, but used with some intelligence and some application, it can actually get you into deals that you couldn't get into any other way, unless you had a mountain of cash. Now, depending on the severity of the problem that's stopping it being mortgageable, or the discount to done up value or fixed up value, can be quite substantial. The deals that many, and in fact most investors pass over, are the ones that are flagged up as cash buyer only. Now, let's move on to point 2. Now, to quote a very old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Put another way, there's more than one way to do a deal. Now, one of the ways I've been teaching my students to structure a deal, again for the last 10 years or so, is this. It's a delayed completion strategy which jumbles up the normal pattern of how you process a deal. I'll explain what I mean, but I've also got other videos on this. You check out the one called Done Up Value Bridging. So the normal order is you make an offer, complete the purchase, do the refurb, and then refinance to get your cash out. That's the normal way you do it. With delayed completion, it works slightly differently. You jumble up that order, and you do need the seller's cooperation to make this work. And to be fair, not all sellers will be happy to give you that cooperation, but when they do, it can work well. So what's the jumbled up version of the normal way of doing things? Well, you make your offer, you get it accepted, you exchange contracts, but then you do the refurb between exchange and completion with the seller's permission, of course. And then when you complete, you've got a done up property, which means you can get it valued at the done up value, and you've got very little money to put into it apart from your refurb costs. Now, if you pull out most of your money when you buy the property, on the day you buy the property, not 3, 6, 9 or 12 months later, quicker, that gets you into your next deal a hell of a lot faster. So have a scroll through some of my other videos and find the other videos I've done about delayed completion or done up value bridging. Okay, let's move on to point 3. Point 3 is move faster. Gear up and go up a gear in the speed at which you complete your property purchases. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, a fast completion is attractive to a seller for the simple reason they get their money in the bank that much quicker. It's equally attractive to an agent because estate agents get paid when a deal completes. So if you can push through to a really fast completion, let's say within 28 days, you're going to make the people in the middle of the deal, the agents, and the other side of the deal, the seller, happy people. Now, how do you do that? Well, cash is great if you've got it. Bridging finance, if you haven't, operates on a pretty fast basis. Why is that? Well, because they lend extensively to auctions, or because they lend extensively for auction purchases. Now, with most auctions, you only get 28 days to complete it. So most bridgers are geared up to work in that time frame. They can apply the same time frame when you're not buying at auction, when you're buying either direct to vendor or through an agent. So buy it quickly, do what needs to be doing to fix it up and to solve whatever the problem was with that property. Now you've got an uplifted value property. You can either sell that or refinance it to put your cash out, or the majority of cash out. So this is the way that savvy investors, and certainly the investors that work with me over the years, know that even in a strong seller's market, they can still find little pockets that it's a buyer's market. Now, if you found that useful, I'm going to be back next week with another property finance video. I'll see you next week.
If you enjoyed watching this video, did you know every Monday morning at 8:30, I do a live Facebook Q&A. So if you want to start the week with checking out some answers to your property finance questions, click the link here.